Well, so, definitely came to California in about 95, 96, and moving from North Carolina, you're talking about culture shock. Now, I was so busy running emusic.com and helping launch the iPod and the iTunes Music Store later that when everything was really coming together in 2000, it was like, crap, I need to buy an AR. I need to get some magazines. I'm too darn busy. Crap. But then, fast forward to about 2007, and a good friend of mine and a co-founder of one of my companies walked in. He's like, how we thought AR-15s were illegal in California? I don't think they are. And this was, again, the very early days of the off-list lowers, or OLL days. And so this piques my interest. I'm like, it's got to be wrong. And there's an important little side note. I'm one of the guys who ended export controls on cryptography in the United States. I was at PGP Inc., and it was kind of my idea. And then later my co-founder, eMusics, helped me with this to print the PGP source code in a book and then export it. And basically got investigated by Department of Commerce as being a nuclear arms exporter, which is kind of a fun little background story.
Wow.
But 90 days later, the entire law has changed and is now a $15 form to export strong crypto anywhere in the world. So when I took a look at what was going on with OLLs, it was like, this sounds familiar. And wait, they're absolutely right. The current California laws do not say what they think it says, especially in light of a couple court cases at the time that a friend of mine, Don Kilmer, because had contacted each other in the 2000s, even before, had litigated with, I think, Chuck Michelle and others. And so when we looked at that, I was like, wait, there is a huge opportunity here. People can own real AR-15s and still comply with the law. And, that kind of went through a couple steps until one day I had one of those shower moments. I was sitting there thinking about the definition of detachable for detachable magazines. And it was like, wait, that doesn't say what California and the courts thinks it says. In fact, I think we could design a magazine release for AR-15s that would be releasable only with a bullet, but not with a finger. And that would make it completely compliant with the law. And that was what became the bullet button. I had named it the Range Safe Mag Lock, but the design that has been the dominant design was mine. And I intentionally kind of made that available for free to everybody because I wanted that to be an inexpensive part that people just added and had functional and safe ARs. And actually it came out of, I went to the range with an AR with a actual like Prince 50 locked kit, and I jammed and I was stuck because it was a brand new build. And this is just not a nice place to be. But that moment, and I stepped out of the shower going, I think we can do this. And then, built the CAD versions of it. I've still got 5 or 6 of those that originally printed out here. And, it set off a revolution. I mean, I think we thought something like 10 to 15 million AR-15s came into California. We were able to, because this also was about the same time that this little case called, what becomes DC versus Heller was moving through the court systems, and it caught my eye. And in fact, Alan Gurr and I became close friends. I have this weird record at eMusic of being the youngest CEO of a national market public company ever. And, Alan was this young, unheard of, but amazing lawyer and writer. And so end up getting to do some kind of, team up there to think about, how to handle the Supreme Court arguments and all those sort of steps. And so all this was coming to head all at the same time. And, so we were able to really make it clear that off-list lowers were completely legal. We actually made the Department of Justice give them up and hand them back. So that was your proof point if anybody was worried about it back in the day. And then there were some grumblings about the bullet button, but I mean, one of my proudest moments was that the bullet button was named as a item to be banned by Dianne Feinstein in one of her mini Senate bills. And it's like, okay, we've made it when that happens.
You've arrived. When it's when your item's actually been named by Feinstein, you arrived. And I'll tell you, just to pause for a second and talk about the assault weapons ban, quote unquote. You always got to do air quotes when you say assault weapons ban, otherwise you get a bunch of comments saying, yeah, it's not a real term. But I want to make clear, I want to make sure that everybody really understands that the intention of that was to ban everything that looks like an AR or an AK. You weren't supposed to be able to comply with that law. So I think a lot of people think, well, gee, why did they make a law requiring a bullet button or now requiring, a different compliant part? That's not what they did. They were truly trying to end your ability to own that pattern, that style of semi-automatic rifle. It was just, what Gene, what you're explaining, that made it possible for people to even own those again. There was a few years there where you walked into a gun shop, nothing looked like an AR or an AK. It was done. It was gone. They did not want you to own that. I really want to emphasize and make sure that people understand that.
Yeah, well, we went back to ranges full of people shooting ARs and AKs, and that was a huge change. And it took a little while because people, you hit on something I think is important. We were able to find this group of people who were leaders and senior folks in their various industries, be that Hollywood prop folks, software developers, hardware engineers, and we take a very different look at how all this works. And when we brought this kind of advanced regulatory and legal view to it, we could combine all of those things together, and that's very much what the CGF actually was that kind of unique melding of skills that really allowed us to push back and drive, frankly, 18 wheelers through the AW ban. I joked to Jason Davis the other day on X that, how many 18 wheelers did I drive through that law exactly? But, and I know, as a Californian, you'll understand what I say. I think people in the rest of the states that are freer will be like, what are you telling me? But I consider it a win that we got people the opportunity to register another, 10, 15 million guns, even though people didn't. I mean, I have off-list lowers that are now fully registered. And ultimately, I think that's still unconstitutional end, but it's darn nice to know that I actually have a fully functioning AR-15 and I don't even have to kind of joke about it.
I agree. It really, truly, I mean, like I said, had nothing been done, had people just refused to, figure out a way to comply, whether you call it a loophole or a workaround or whatever, reality, you figured out a way to comply. Had that not happened, it would be a very different California. There'd be a very different gun industry. There'd be a very different look to gun owners. And I think it was extremely important.
Well, there's an important point hiding here. I just kind of want to bump in. In most industries with governments, the industry ends up basically bear hugging and being in control of their regulator. And for whatever reason, we gun owners until CGF kind of didn't take that to heart. I mean, if you go to the FDIC or the Fed, the banks control them. Like the banks tell them what to do and they make sure that they can't get out of line. And gun owners didn't do that. And I think that was the big change, was to say, you know what? The Department of Justice Division of or Bureau of or whatever firearms, they're going to do what we tell them to do. We're the experts here. We know this better than they do. They are not gun people. Very few of them are. So that was the kind of fundamental change. It was like, if you're going to do this, we're going to hold you to account.
The gun community, gun industry, gun owners are different from a lot of other industries in a lot of ways. And I think that we could learn a lot from other industries in the way they cooperate and operate. Why do you think what you just described, why do you think that is? What is it about gun owners in the gun industry that why didn't we do what everyone else is doing?
Well, so I'll say it this way, gun 1.0, gun culture 1.0, it was conservatives. And so we were asking conservatives to do conservatives for change. And that's not easy. Now, what I love about it is we've done that. I mean, I think Freedom Week around magazines is just the best illustration because, it was back in the day when some of these things happened that the entire nationwide gun industry could have taken advantage of in California. People were too scared. But finally, everybody started to realize, no, wait, a district court means that I can't get in trouble for doing this. And in fact, I can open my doors to Californians and do something good for the entire gun industry. So, we've changed. I mean, I think the great thing is that CGF in a very large sense has changed through, again, the outgrowth of both FPC and, SAF. We've been able to educate the rest of the states that this is a much better strategy. You get much better results, and we don't have to be that conservative about how we defend our rights.
Hey, thanks for watching Gun Owners Radio. I hope you loved that clip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on social media, and check out our website at gunownersradio.com.